In the shadowy corners of Roman history, among emperors who were both revered and feared, one name stands out, not only for his power, but for his darkness. His name was Tiberius, the second ruler of Rome after Augustus. Tiberius was a brilliant general, a cunning politician, and yet, behind the walls of his palaces, he descended into one of the most bizarre, perverse, and shocking lifestyles ever recorded in ancient history. This is the story of Tiberius the Perverse, and the most disturbing sexual practices that horrified even the ancient Romans. Before we dive into the scandals, let us remember who Tiberius was. Born in 42 BC, Tiberius Claudius Nero became the stepson of Rome's first emperor, Augustus. Through strategy, military brilliance, and sheer luck, he rose to power as the second emperor of Rome in the year 14 AD. At first, Tiberius seemed promising, disciplined, intelligent, and respected by his soldiers. He expanded the Roman Empire, secured its borders, and commanded loyalty from the legions. But ruling Rome was no easy task. He faced political enemies, betrayals, and even family tragedies. All of this began to weigh heavily on him. By the time he retreated to the island of Capri in 26 AD, Tiberius had turned his back on public life, and it was there, far away from the Senate and the people of Rome, that his darkest desires came to life. The island of Capri became his private kingdom of indulgence. Its cliffs rose from the sea like fortresses, and its villas overlooked the endless blue waters of the Mediterranean. To visitors, Capri seemed like paradise. But to those who lived inside the walls of Tiberius's villas, it was a place of nightmares. Roman historians such as Suetonius and Tacitus describe Capri as a den of excess, where Tiberius surrounded himself with entertainers, astrologers, and pleasure seekers. But these were not the wild but ordinary parties we might expect from a Roman emperor. No, his behavior was so extreme, so twisted, that it earned him the nickname, the Goat of Capri. Why? Because of the strange and humiliating rituals he forced others into. One of the most bizarre accounts describes how Tiberius kept young children, sometimes called his minnows. These children were allegedly trained to swim between his legs while he bathed, performing acts that left ancient writers horrified. To the Romans, who were already known for their tolerance of sexuality, even this seemed unspeakably perverse. It wasn't passion, it wasn't romance. It was power twisted into something grotesque. This practice was so infamous that for centuries, the minnows of Tiberius became a whispered phrase among scholars of Roman history. And it did not stop there. Suetonius, in his book The 12 Caesars, tells us that Tiberius filled his palace with paintings, statues, and manuals of the most obscene acts known in the ancient world. He used them as instruction books, pushing the boundary. But the story of Tiberius does not end with his death. When he took his final breath in 37 AD, the empire did not fall silent. Instead, it seemed to inhale sharply, preparing for something even darker. For in the shadows of Capri, Tiberius had raised his successor, his great-nephew and adopted grandson, Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. The world would remember him by another name, Caligula. Caligula had spent years under the watchful eye of Tiberius. He witnessed firsthand the emperor's cruelty, paranoia, and perversions. Some say that living in Tiberius's court twisted Caligula's mind forever, poisoning him with a taste for absolute power and unrestrained indulgence. Others argue he was already predisposed to madness. When the Senate declared Caligula emperor after Tiberius's death, the people rejoiced. They thought the nightmare was over. They thought the Goat of Capri had been replaced by a young, vibrant leader who would bring joy and renewal. But they were wrong. Within a few short years, Caligula's reign would prove even more horrifying, filled with sadism, extravagance, and chaos. In this sense, Tiberius left not only a legacy of depravity, but also a cursed heir who carried his torch of corruption. The stories of Tiberius continued to spread long after. Suetonius, writing nearly a century later, devoted page after page to his alleged crimes. Tacitus painted him as a cold and cruel tyrant. Cassius Dio added his own embellishments. Each historian layered the tale thicker, until fact and legend were no longer separable. Capri itself became a symbol. The island's villas, once places of Roman beauty, were now whispered about as sites of unspeakable acts. Even today, visitors to Capri can see the ruins of Villa Jovis, Tiberius's palace. Locals sometimes call it haunted, as if the ghosts of those who suffered under Tiberius still linger among the stones. The cliffs of Capri, once kissed by the sun, became associated with his cruelty. It was said that when someone displeased him, he had them hurled from the cliffs into the sea below. Fishermen who passed the waters beneath spoke of spirits crying out from the depths. The legacy of Tiberius also left a mark on how Rome understood power. Augustus had built the empire on discipline and control, but Tiberius revealed what could happen when an emperor abandoned public life and gave in to secrecy. From then on, Romans feared not just corruption in politics, but corruption of the soul. The emperor was not only a ruler, he was a mirror of Rome itself. And if he was depraved, what did that say about the empire? For centuries, poets, playwrights, and moralists invoked Tiberius as the ultimate warning. Medieval scholars described him as a monster of pagan times, proof of how far humanity could fall without the light of faith. Renaissance thinkers rediscovered Suetonius's accounts, and once again, the Goat of Capri haunted the imagination of Europe. In the modern era, Tiberius is remembered in books, films, and documentaries as the man who traded the throne of Rome for a life of secrecy and sin. But the greatest mystery still remains. How much of it was real? Did Tiberius truly indulge in the minnows, the manuals, and the goats? Or was he simply a cold, withdrawn ruler, slandered by those who wished to blacken his name? The truth may never be fully known, but perhaps that is why the story endures. Because in the tale of Tiberius, history and legend blur into one. We are left not with certainty, but with a chilling image. An emperor, alone in his villa on Capri, surrounded by luxury yet consumed by darkness. His laughter echoing through the halls as the world outside whispered his name in fear. And so the question remains, was Tiberius the victim of history's cruel pen, or the true embodiment of power corrupted beyond redemption? That, dear listener, is for you to decide.